G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome, everyone. Today I'm interviewing Steve Rozenberg from Steve Rozenberg, based in Houston, Texas, United States of America. Thanks for your time today, Steve.
Thanks, Troy. Nice to meet you, bud.
Let's start with how we know each other. So Rika from Geffen Media, she's put us in touch with some great guests in the past, and she thought you'd be good to come on.
Yeah. They, they always get me touched in with quality people. So looking forward to the conversation and hoping I can impart a little wisdom on your base of listeners.
I think from your varied business career, and your successes to date and what you're focusing on now, I think they will get a lot of value out of it. So tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
Yeah. So my business that I started and grew was a real estate property management company. And that was spurned out of probably many people out of a need of owning a lot of real estate and not doing it correctly. And I needed to corral these properties somehow. Took that company, which was really just to self-preservation, if you will, and got a business coach. And we, within 7 years, became the fastest growing property management company in the state of Texas, had over 1,000 properties, and ended up exiting and selling that company to a very large venture capital firm, which I then became a vice president of, which had 10,000 properties, and did my quote unquote time there. And now what I do is I show people how we did it based on my prior career. I say prior, I still am an international commercial airline pilot.
Yeah.
So I show people how to build their businesses the way airlines run, through systems, structure, procedures, and checklists.
Right.
So that business can actually run without you.
Yeah.
So it's actually a business and not a job.
Yeah. Fantastic. And we were talking before we hit record. So you used to do the second longest leg in the world, Houston to Sydney, which I've been on, and thank Christ I upgraded to business class. But how many trips did you say you did on that?
I did it for about 3 years. So I would say I was probably Houston, Sydney, probably about 100 times, not counting the tours that I did speaking as a speaker in Australia. But yeah, I got very, very localized in the Sydney area. I knew all the areas, knew the trains, cricket matches, rugby, you name it. I was going to them.
Oh, great. Good to hear. Did you go to an AFL game? Because a lot of Americans are a bit amazed that we play so hard and we don't wear padding or helmets. We just crash into each other and leap through the air and land on our heads.
I did. I went to AFL. I went to league. I went to union. I did cricket. Couldn't understand that, but I kept going until I could. I went to some polo matches up in North Sydney. So I kind of ran the gamut, really trying to embrace it and learn about it. And like, to me, when you travel into different parts of the world, I've been to every continent except Antarctica. That's all about traveling. It's about embracing, learning. And there's a lot to be relatable to being a business owner and how to be adaptable, pivoting when you're running a business. So I found a lot of ties as an international airline pilot and running a business.
Yep. Just back on the property management, maybe explain to the audience what that entails.
Yeah. So property management is a third-party contractor where you have an owner who owns a property, and basically you have a tenant who rents that property. And our job is to basically be the line in the middle, to make sure that it's legal, to make sure that everyone is treated equally, fairly. We collect the rent, we disperse it to the owner. We make sure any maintenance issues are taken care of. And basically we're the complaint desk of both parties. Yeah. Nobody ever calls you to thank you. They call you to either yell at you or fire you, essentially. Yes. My business partner used to say we were the trash men of the real estate industry. Nobody wanted us, but they needed us.
Yes.
It's a great industry in the sense that it's almost recession proof, because in good times you have investors buying properties and you manage those. In bad times, you have people who can't sell their properties and you manage those.
Yeah.
So it's actually a pretty good steady stream business. We had it as a preservation of our own properties. And that's how we started it. But soon we realized what kind of lucrative business model it was. And it's a very scalable, structured type business model that you could actually run it without you if you have the right team and leverage in place.
And systems, good systems.
Got to have systems. It's all about systems.
And did you go wide on scope and add more services like the actual property maintenance as well? Or you just outsource that to contractors?
You know, we like all people, we would test and measure. And we had a hybrid. We had some of it internal with staff, and then we had some bigger jobs that were outsourced. We did go down the path at one point of actually trying to start a business, a maintenance division. And we lost money the first year, which didn't make sense to us because it was pure profit on paper. But what we realized was starting a maintenance division is really starting a whole other company, whole other organization chart, whole other everything. We weren't treating it that way. We were treating it as an add-on to our business, and that's not the way to handle that.
Yeah.
So we very quickly retreated from that after first year of losses, realizing that was not our focus.
Yeah.
And so we tended to be very hyper-focused in what we did. We used to say we make cheese pizzas. We make them very well. We make the best cheese pizzas. They're boring, but it's very profitable. And we know exactly how to make those pizzas every single day, all day long.
Yep. Great. And how did you start out? What year did you launch that business? Was that your first business you started?
I wouldn't say it was my first business. You know, the way this whole thing evolved for me was being an airline pilot. And, you know, all I ever wanted to do as a kid is be an airline pilot. That was it. And I got hired at 25 years old with a major airline. I was the second youngest person hired. And it was the job of a lifetime. I mean, I was flying all over the world. I was 25. I had the dream job. And then 9/11 hit. And 9/11 recognized to me that it was not a safe, secure job, because 2 days after 9/11, I got furloughed.
Yeah.
And I realized at that point, I needed to do something that someone else was not in control of my future and my destiny. So that's when I started looking at real estate, and I started buying real estate properties. I started doing what they call now flipping and wholesaling properties, which is basically doing a transaction. And I got very good at that. So good that I turned that into a business. I take it back. It wasn't really a business because it couldn't run without me. So technically it was a job. Paid very well, but it was a job. If I stopped, the money stopped. And I didn't like that side of it. So we started doing a lot of buy and hold properties, which if you own one property or if you own 50 properties, you own a business. You have rules, laws, regulations. The only person who doesn't realize they own a business is the actual landlord themselves, which is why they fail many times.
Yep.
So all these were, in my opinion, going back to your question, these were all businesses. The most successful one came from our failures of not running our real estate portfolio as a business and almost going bankrupt. And because of that, we started a property management company. And one of the first things we did is we hired a business coach. And we stayed with that business coach for 7 years. And every single week we would see that coach. And every week he would put us down to like this size and belittle us and make us realize what we didn't know. Mm-hmm. But what he was doing is he was teaching us how to run a business. And so we got so good at understanding the business dynamics of any business. We were able to scale this exponentially fast, leverage it with virtual assistants, have a very large staff. And it was a machine, and it was just running. And we learned the fundamentals of being business owners, not investors, not property managers, but actually running the business.
Yeah. Fantastic. That's great. And what year was that you started that property management business?
Yeah, we started the property management company in 2012.
Yeah.
We sold it in 2019. So it was a 7-year run. And then after 2019, I went to work for the venture capital firm for about 2.5 years. And then after that, I parted ways. And then now I do my own speaking, coaching, showing people that.
Yeah, great. And how old were you when you started that in 2012?
Oh boy, that's a
10
good
years
question.
ago. Make it easy for you. 10 years. I've had enough.
Yeah, coffee. I was 39. I'm 49 now. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm 49 as well. I just turned 49. Just back on the VAs you mentioned, I've just had to rent a place for 12 months because my house is taking forever to get fucking built. And it was interesting when I came to the inspection, I was leaving and I'd already put an application in because the rental vacancy here in Hobart's 0.5%, which is, below the national average of 1%. And I have a chocolate Labrador Carlton supporter, so it's very hard to find a rental with a dog, especially if the owners are Collingwood supporter. But as I was leaving, I mentioned to the agent, was talking about it. She tried to hand me an application form, and I said, "Oh, I've already put one in." And she said, "Oh, our offshore team will be in touch if you're missing any information." I found that really interesting. That it's not a sizable. It wasn't a national franchised real estate property management company, but here in Hobart, like they'd already tuned into the power of leveraging offshore resources. So you guys were onto that quite early.
Yeah, we kept trying to figure out the formula, and the standard is going to Asia or India. In the United States, it's a challenge because we're across the date line, and there's a culture challenge, and we after trying and not really having a lot of success. The thing about owning a business is the amazing ability to leveraging people, leveraging their time, leveraging their knowledge, leveraging their experience. If you can create a business that can truly, the definition as I taught it was a business is a commercial, profitable enterprise that runs without you and has a sale date. And I can explain that if you like.
Yep.
But the part of it running without you is having team. You never should build a business that you are the focal point around the business. That's not a business, that's a job.
Yep.
So if you can't leave your business for 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, it's not a business. It's just a job that you're calling a business. So we were very big in understanding right person, right seat in our business.
Yep.
Who do we need to have to do what? We started learning how to do disc profiling, which is a personality profiling. And every role in our organization chart had 4 things. We had a job description, we had roles and duties, we had KPIs, key performance indicators, and we had a disc associated with that position.
Yeah.
So we'd always hire on disc. So we didn't really care where the person was because we knew exactly what the job description was. We knew what they were responsible for. We knew how to grade them. Their scorecard was the KPIs, and we knew what disc. I didn't care if they were 3 feet from me or 3,000 miles from me, as long as they did the job and the metrics showed us. So we started understanding that a lot of times it's ego and pride that causes us to think, oh, they've got to be next to me. If they have to be next to you, what you're saying is you don't have systems in your business to make it run without you.
Yeah.
Because if you have systems and you have a training system set up to train these people, it doesn't matter where they are. So we had 60% of our company, we had better success going to Mexico, which is south of the United States, because it was the same time zone. They understood the Western culture. The conversations flowed easier. So for us, it was much easier to go to Mexico. And we got so good, 60% of our company was being run out of Mexico.
Wow.
So from a number standpoint, 60% of our payroll was going to 60% of our revenue was payroll, because we didn't sell a gadget. We sold services. Once we got to the virtual assistant role, we had 23 virtual assistants in Mexico. We took that down to 31%.
Wow.
So we added more staff with less cost. So from a number standpoint, when you're doing several $1 million a year in revenue, that's all profit margin.
That's huge.
And we could specialize the person. We didn't need to have one person doing 15 jobs. We could have one person doing 1 or 2 jobs, very, very focused, very vertical. So we ran our business very vertical based on those roles, because the cost per employee was much less. We could get 4 to maybe 5 employees for the cost of 1 employee.
Yeah.
It just comes down to numbers at some point.
Yeah, no, I love that. My offshore team's at about 7 at the moment. They're in the Philippines, but just back on disc, I'm a huge fan of disc. It's quadrant for the audience. There's a DI, S, and C. It's like Myers-Briggs, but different. Marsden, I think it was Marsden that invented it in 1929. He's the guy that invented the lie detector as well. It's a behavioral model. So you do not want to get a high I in a role where you need attention to detail, like in an accountant, because they're extrovert, people orientated. They love to talk. They're not that great with attention to detail. So I love the fact that you actually put which quadrant in each role it would play to the strengths. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Well, and even more so, what we would do is we would look, and as you know, there's 2 parts to disc. There's what you were born as, and then there's what you've become by education and environment. And whenever you're in a stressful situation, you will always revert back to what you were born as.
Yep.
So what we wanted to see, property management, some roles are very stressful. Who does this person become in a stressful situation? Do they start screaming at people? Are they crying in the corner? Are they chalking and jabberjawing? Like, who are they?
Yeah.
And we knew, I mean, I hate to say this, a resume is a glorified lie. Nobody says they suck in a resume.
Yep.
Their disc doesn't lie.
No.
So we would always do disc first, and we would interview based on their discs if they matched.
Yep. Yeah, fantastic. Do you have any key numbers you can share to illustrate the growth of that business?
Sure. So, as I said, we did, when we were marketing 1 year, we had a 1,471% return on our marketing dollars. So we were masters at being very, very hyper focused in our marketing. Some years we had over 300% growth because we were so good at figuring out that target client. And what people, you know, when you get an entrepreneur, they're good at operators, majority of them. They're good at making a widget. They're not so good at understanding how to get that widget out in front of people. And more importantly, in front of the right people.
Yep.
So our first investment in our staff was marketing and marketing people. And we really identified who that marketing person was, because to me, if your phone's not ringing, which is what marketing does, you're going out of business. You just don't know it till your bank account says zero.
Yep.
So we were very focused. That was one of our main numbers, was getting that return on marketing dollars as high as we could, because that means if we're getting a good marketing client, we're going to convert them. So we had a higher conversion rate. You know, people don't really understand conversion rates very well, which is actually turning that person into a client. And everybody lies about their numbers because they just don't know what they are. And they say, oh, I'm 70%, 9%. A good conversion rate for a company is about 28%. That's if you're smoking hot.
Yep.
If you categorize them correctly. Most people don't categorize them correctly, so they don't really know their numbers. We were fanatical with our numbers. We always had to know what our numbers were, because when we have, you know, when you have virtual assistants and you have people in different roles, we were in multiple cities. I didn't care what they said. I cared what the numbers dictated. So we were very fanatical about our numbers. When it came to real estate, we had a 1% eviction rate, which in the United States is the average is going to be about 10%.
Wow.
We were at less than 1%.
Yeah.
Because we understood, if you put a bad person in, you're going to get a bad person coming out. It's kind of common sense, but at the time it's, you know, you don't really think that way. But we realize it's, you know, business is numbers. It's not emotions. It's not gut reactions. It's data, it's metrics, and it's numbers. And if people can run their business based on data and metrics, they're going to be far more successful, depending on what metrics they need to have. Our business, we probably had about 1,000 metrics that were being monitored, but us at the top in the leadership team, we looked at about 7 to 8.
Yeah.
Because all those were derivatives of other metrics. And so you got to, you know, obviously you got to see what's important, but we were fanatical with our numbers of what we were doing every month with our leads coming in. We knew our cost per acquisition, our cost per strategy, our cost per lead strategy. I mean, we had to understand all these numbers. How long does it take before you actually make money on a client? You get them. Okay. But it costs you $1,000 to acquire that client. When do you actually break even on that? And what we learned, and this is something for your guests, and I don't know if this is helpful or not, but we learned how to compress our time to get the velocity of the money coming back quicker. So we would say, okay, it takes us 31 days, let's just say, to rent a property. How do we get that to 30? And then how do we get to 29? Because now not only is the client getting their money, but we're getting our money quicker.
Yep.
And so we really started understanding, to get that velocity of money, we've got to compress things. And the only way we can do that is by metrics and data.
Love that saying, what can be measured can be managed.
Absolutely. So true.
So what about number of full-time team members you started with in 2012, and when you sold out 7 years later, how many full-time equivalents?
So when we started, it was me and my business partner, like many businesses, you know, started off drinking whiskey in his backyard saying, we should do this. That was a great idea, right?
Yep.
So that's how it started. And like I said, one of the first hires we got, first hire was a property manager staff, and then marketing. And one of the things that was interesting is, as we did this, so it started off as 2, we ended up with about 30 total.
Yep.
Was the end number. But what we did, and this is what we learned by being coached, most people hire based on the problem in front of them at the time. That's being a reactive business. I got a problem with my secretary. I got to fire her and hire a new one. That's not always the best way to do it. You hire based on the plan. The plan is the organization chart. So the organization chart is the spinal cord for our business. And whenever we would hire, we would look at the data and numbers, and we would try to go, okay, how do we alleviate like pressure? Adding staff is not always the key to growing a business. That could make that can make the crash come quicker if you have the wrong staff and they're not trained and you don't know what you have them do. So just having a bunch of people doesn't work. Selectively, surgically hiring these people when the projection needs it. You know, a lot of times, as you know, let's just say property management, we were growing anywhere between 50 to 70, I take it back, maybe 20 to 60 properties per month in some months. Well, we knew that each property manager could manage anywhere at the time 140 to 175 properties. Okay. So what we would do is we would offload them with pods of virtual assistants to relieve the pressure. And we got them up to 230 to 280 properties because they had a supporting staff. So they were like a little mini pod themselves. But we knew at about 250 to 260, they were getting max.
Yeah.
So we would take the growth rate that we had and look at it and say, okay, in 3 months, this person is going to be tapped. We need to get another property manager. You've got to interview them. You've got to hire them. You have to train them. Then you got to get them up to speed. That's normally going to be about 90 days. So 90 to 120 days out from the time we needed that person, we were already starting the process. It doesn't make sense to the normal person. They're like, well, that's an added expense. But what happens is when you're hiring staff last minute, what are you doing? You're taking the first person that comes in the door. You're not training them. You're throwing them into the cyclone and going, please, God, just fucking get it done. I don't want to deal with you. Don't come back to me. And I hope to God you figure this out in 2 days.
Yep.
And what happens? It's a shit show because they don't train them properly.
Yes.
And so that's one of the challenges business have. So my point of all this is, you know, look, we all make mistakes growing our companies and we learned our mistakes, but we also learned that if you're very methodical in hiring and you're pre-planning it, the one thing that you have is time. Once that time goes away, now you're in rush mode and you've taken a situation that could have been done correctly and you've turned it into a chaos. And when you're in chaos, you're not making money. And when you're not making money, you're not in control. And that's the downside of the business.
Yep, absolutely. And what about what you're focusing on now? How many team members did you start with? What was a bit over a year ago now? You started that?
It's been about a year and a half.
Yep.
So I'm doing high level masterminds, coaching. Again, one of the things I did when I left the venture capital firm is I had a virtual assistant. She was with me when I had my company. When we sold, she came with me. And I told her, I said, listen, here's the deal. I'm going to leave. You can stay here with the firm, with the VC firm if you want, or you can come with me and I'm always going to take you with me. And she's like, I'm going with you. So she's been with me for about 5 years. So we really started just she and I. Now I've got cameramen. I've got marketing people. I have a staff of a hard staff of 4. I've got a supporting staff of contractors that I hire, going up into the 12 to 15 range, supporting everything that I'm doing.
Yeah, fantastic. That's wonderful growth, Steve, over the last 10 years in both businesses.
Yeah, what I've learned, and Troy, maybe you can share a similar experience, but first of all, I don't think anything happens by chance. Number one. And number two, I think we're all on a journey. And what I mean by this is, it's like a fish, right? Or a shark. It doesn't go to a destination and stop. It's constantly on a journey. I think we as humans, as the entrepreneurs, we're on a journey. When I had my company, we sold at a very, very good time that our company was doing very well. And a lot of people ask me, they're like, Steve, why did you sell? You were making a lot of money. Your company was worth millions of dollars. Why'd you do it? And now, why are you doing this? Because I still am an airline pilot. I fly a Boeing 777 aircraft all over the world. If you follow me on social media, you'll see all the cool places I go to. And they're like, why do you do all this? And my answer, the only thing I could tell you and tell other people is life is like a book. And that book is made up of chapters. High school is a chapter. It starts and it ends. College, chapter. Our 20s are chapters. Our 30s are chapters. My 40s are about to be a chapter like you. It starts and it ends. I think that just because you start a business doesn't mean you've got to drag this to the nth degree. It's a chapter. We learn things. Sometimes it's a good point to just say, you know what? I'm closing this chapter and I'm moving on. I've taken a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience. I help a lot of very, very successful companies and I get them more successful. But it's because of the chapters in my life, just like you, just like everyone else. So I would say, don't be afraid to start and end a chapter. Don't wait for it to be going down in flames and say, okay, now I'm done.
When was the moment you felt like you had succeeded?
You know, I don't think I ever feel like I've succeeded. When I sold my company, I was under the illusion that I succeeded. And what I mean by that, you know, when you sell something that you've built up and you get this big fat, you know, 7-figure check, I thought to myself, man, I'm done. Like that's it, you know? And I thought I kind of was going to be in this cool club and I thought I was going to get a jacket and everyone's going to pat me on the back and I was going to be in this golfing and you know, on Monday, guess what happened? My wife said, hey, you got to take the trash out. And I'm like, but honey, like we just sold our business. She's like, I don't care. The trash still needs to go. And what I realized is nobody cares.
Yeah.
After the accolades and everyone pats you on the back and good job, press release, nobody cares. And so I realized the illusion of thinking that you reach that destination of making it and being successful, it's all in your mind. It's not a certain amount in the bank. It's not about all the toys you have. One of my mentors, he's actually an Australian, Brad Sugars. He mentored us and he said to me, he said, you know, Steve, don't buy. He goes, look, you're going to be successful. You're going to buy houses and toys and all that shit. But he said, buy memories, buy an African safari, buy dinner in Greece on the Mediterranean, buy the Rolling Stones in Wembley Stadium, buy memories. Don't buy things. So when you think about this, it was very interesting. I didn't really understand it. But now when you think about this, all the things and toys and nice things we buy, those are irrelevant. But the memories we have forever. And so now I think about, okay, what memories do I want to create with my family? That's the success that I want to have, to be able to do those things. So I think I always keep trying to raise the bar for success. I don't know where that is. I'm just one of these people that keeps pushing. But I'm looking at success as memories that I want to create, not money, not adulations, not businesses that I own. It's what kind of memories do I create that I can smile back and look back on? You know, look, when we all meet our creator, whoever that may be, what do we take with us? We don't take any of our shit with us. There's no U-Haul behind a hearse, right? It's all about the memories we have.
Yep. Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast-growing business?
Become very hyper-focused on who you're going after. And make sure you can spot that person and that target, their age, their gender, their demographics, their physiographics, and more importantly, what problem are you solving for them and what is your solution?
And how did you and your business partner fund the first business?
Yeah, we bootstrapped it.
Wow.
No outside funding.
Yep.
Everything was done organically, which is, I say it was slow. I think we would have been national. We're actually looking at coming over to Australia because I was already speaking in Australia and doing stuff and I already had ties. Everybody wanted our system. Everybody wanted to know, how do we systematize this thing with so many virtual assistants to run without us? But I think we could have done it quicker had we had injection of capital. Honestly, to be very blunt, I didn't know anything about getting money. I didn't understand it. And it was something that kind of scared me a little bit. So we bootstrapped the whole thing.
And your business partner was there with you the whole way, the whole 7 years? That all worked out well?
Whole 7 years. Yep. We're still good friends. We had those FU conversations like all business partners have.
I've had a few.
Yeah. But, you know, the one thing I'll say is we always made sure that the business came first.
Yeah.
We always put the business in front of our egos, in front of our pride, to make sure that we were always doing the right thing for the business and for the team that trusted us and believed in us. And then because of that, they went the extra mile and they really pushed. because he and I were always in line. We were very good at staying in our lanes. He was the integrator, I was the visionary, and we stayed in those lanes, and we very, very rarely got out of our lane.
Sounds like you've read Gino Wickman's Rocket Fuel then.
Yeah. It was like this guy's in our office. I think he's been watching us the way you read that book, you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
I don't think so. I don't think I would. I think there's a lot of regulation. There's a lot of compression in this industry. There's a lot of consolidation. So I don't think I would go back into this industry. I think that being here it's been tremendous. It's made me very successful, but I never really identified as a property manager. I identified as a business owner, and that business just happened to own property management. So there was a difference in how I looked at things. And I wasn't a big fan of property management, but it was a very lucrative model, and it taught me a lot about how to systematize a company. So now when I look at any business, and I coach a lot of businesses all over the world, I can look at that business. Every business has between 8 and 11 systems. Property management had 19.
Wow.
So there's a lot more systems in property management. You become a master at systems. When you own the systems, you can own anything. And so learn how to systematize your company. And I can look at any business and go, oh shit, this is only 3 systems. I can figure this out in a day.
Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
Yeah, almost like it was vivid in my mind. We were growing so fast that we were in chaos mode at one point. And we were at a point that we had about 350 properties being managed, and we were giving horrible service. And we didn't know what to do. We were losing clients. Everybody was pissed at us. We didn't want to answer the phone because everybody was just going to bitch at us. So we didn't know what to do. And so we brought in a guy. Our business coach says, have this guy come in and talk to him. Okay. So we brought this guy in, and we're like, we need customer service. Can you help us with customer service? Because we suck at it. So it was me, my business partner, and our top property manager. He says, tell us what you do. I told him we manage properties. He's like, give me a system that's having issues. We said, okay, the handoff between sales and operations. That's normally an issue with most companies.
Yep.
He goes, okay, you two get out of the room. You, Steve, you stay with me, and we're going to talk. So he says, tell me how you onboard a new client. So I walked him through. We do this, we do this, we do this. We load them in the software, blah, blah, blah. He goes, okay. So he writes it all down, and he's like, okay, so that's how you do it. I'm like, yep. He's like, you sure? I'm like, absolutely. He goes, okay, you go out and have Pete come in, your business partner. Pete comes in, same question, writes it all down, says, is that exactly how you do it? Absolutely. Okay. Next person, property manager, come in, same thing. I'm sure you know where this is going.
Oh, yeah.
So we sit down, and he says, puts all 3 of them in front of us. He says, this is your problem. All 3 of them were completely different, not even close to being the same. He goes, this is your problem right here. He says, until you can give the same consistent service every day without even thinking, you are never gonna, he goes, it's not you don't have a customer service problem. You have a systems problem.
Yeah.
And so for 2 years, this guy, we hired him. He helped us systematize our business for 2 years. For me, being a visionary, it was like needles in my eyes. I hated it. Yeah. And he knows it. And then we would joke, but it was so necessary.
Yeah. What area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value? I think I know what you're going to say here.
Well, for me, it was patience.
Right.
It was patience. I was patience and being vertical. My business partner used to tell me, Steve, you come up with 10 ideas every day. 9 of them suck, but one of them's the moneymaker. Focus on the one. And I would be like, okay, great. Next day I'd have 10. So over the years, as I've matured as a business owner, I've learned to get focused. And I used to, I really was, I don't want to say a Tasmanian devil, but I was just spinning like crazy coming in the room. They're like, man, you're like a hurricane when you come in. Now I'm much more pointed. I'm much more direct. I'm more matured as a business owner, and I've learned to focus. So that to me was probably.
What have you enjoyed the least about managing fast growth?
People bitching at you. Not being able to convey the vision that I want them to understand that I see in my head. So that's a communication problem on my part, right? I own that, but trying to get people to understand my vision of where I'm trying to take this and them not seeing it at the speed that I'm trying to grow this at so that they could stay along for the journey was very tough.
What do you love most about growing a small business?
Man, I love the energy. I love the fire. I love seeing now that I coach a lot of businesses, I love seeing that fire that I can mold, and I can see 9 steps ahead of them of what they're going to do. And I just start marching them down the path. And it's the same, it's the same chassis. It's marketing, sales, operations, accounting, leadership. And I can just run them through it. And I love the moldability of people when they're building a business. They're willing to do anything. They'll walk through a wall for you if you say that's what it takes. And you don't have to be the smartest. You just got to take action. And they're all most young entrepreneurs that are building a business will do what it takes as far as action, maybe not the right action, but they'll take the action to get it across the goal line.
What has been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
For me, it's understanding the end result. Understanding that there has to be an end date. As I told you earlier, the definition, as I was taught, is a commercial profitable enterprise that runs without you and has a sale date. The sale date, I was taught very early on, you have to have a business with an end destination. The sale date means that it's running without you and that it's a saleable asset. The more I'm involved in a business, the less valuable it is. So I had to learn that I'm not the most smartest person in the room. I'm not the most important person in the room. I should not be the one that everyone looks at. So it's not about me. It's never about you. Even if you start the business, it should never be about you. So that was really, really hard, because you think you're the smartest person because you birthed this business. It's not true.
The number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
Focus.
Totally.
Without a doubt.
Yep, totally agree. I made that mistake early on.
Yeah, I think we all have. You get this shiny object, you get a little bit of success, you get some accolades, everybody comes up to you, you're doing so great. Hey, do you want to be a part of this? Do you want to be, one of the best lessons I learned was saying no.
Yeah.
Saying no has made me a lot of money because I learned how to say no.
Yeah.
And that's focus.
Be the change you want to see in your business. Become more productive and less stressed with our free Transform Your Performance online course. Once you see the benefits, put your entire team through the course at no cost. We start out by telling you the secret to guaranteed success, then over 100 lessons help you be more focused, present, productive, and feel more in control about work. growasmallbusiness.com.
Can you talk to how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes, and advice for those listening?
Yeah, it's you're dealing with people. There's emotions. There's blood, sweat, tears. You want everyone to believe in what you believe in.
Sorry, Steve, ironically, I've heard this Texan saying, I don't know if you've heard it, but the definition of conflict is 2 people in the same county.
I go with that. Yeah, I've heard that. It's when you're hiring people, it's all about relationships. Just because I own the company doesn't mean they're going to do what I do as hard as I do and believe in the vision. It's all about leadership. If I'm a bad leader, there's no bad team members, only bad leadership.
Yep, totally.
If you see a lot of turnover with employees, I could tell you exactly where the problems come from. Fish stinks from the head down.
Yeah.
So you have to be interested in your staff. You have to show them the vision. It's not their responsibility to want to see your vision and do it all. It's your responsibility because you're the one bringing them on board. So you've got to make it relationship based. It's not about, when it comes to team members, you've got to have that relationship model, and you've got to care. Now, you've got to be strict. You've got to hold them accountable. You've got to do all those things, but you've got to be interested in them. You got to care about them.
What are some of the things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
Metrics. You got to have KPIs. You got to have key performance indicators. So many businesses, again, like you said, what gets measured gets improved. So many businesses that I sit down and talk with, and I'll want to see their numbers, and they have no clue.
Yep.
If you look, we talked about, Aussie rules football and rugby and all cricket. I could walk into any arena anywhere in the world. I could look at the scoreboard. I could tell you who's winning. I could tell you who's losing. I could tell you how much time is left. And I could probably tell you who's fouling out and who's having some trouble just by looking at the scoreboard, not even knowing what sport is being played. Could I go into your business and see the same scorecard? If the answer is no, How do you know you're winning or losing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably losing. You just don't realize it, or you're choosing to ignore it because you don't like what those numbers are probably telling you.
Yeah. Tell our audience how you've handled balance.
I don't believe in balance. I'm not a believer in balance. I believe in being focused and intentional in what I'm doing in the moment, and then pivoting, and then being focused and intentional. I'll give you an example. I'm an airline pilot. Boeing 777 holds 380 people, 775,000 pounds is what it weighs. You probably wouldn't want me talking about business when I'm in the middle of landing an airplane. And I go, but I'm balanced. Yeah. I'm doing my job and I'm doing business, or talking to my wife on the phone when I'm trying to land.
Yeah.
I'd say, but Troy, I'm balanced. I don't believe in balance. I believe in being focused, but then you pivot, you change directions. I believe there's three things. There's health, there's wealth, and there's relationships. And I believe each one of them deserves the proper attention and focus when you're doing them. I don't think you blend them. I think they deserve their own individual attention. And that means, again, if you're having dinner with your family and you're on the phone all the time, you're going to go unbalanced, but you're not really in either one of them. So that's me. I could be way off, but that's my opinion.
How much professional development have you invested in yourself?
If I put a number on it, I would say I'm upwards of about $1 million in the last 20 years. Yeah. Wow. I am a big believer in self-development. I think that, if you look at every professional athlete, every single professional athlete has a coach or multiple coaches.
Yeah.
When I talk to people that tell me they're professional business people, I ask them who helps them. Nobody. Really. So all this on your own, and you just magically, learn this? How? It's and that's the thing, is business is a team sport. You have to have people around you. They may not be better business people, but maybe they think differently. Maybe they have different objectives. Maybe they're better at handling people. That's what coaches, that's what mentors do, is they get you to look at things from a different perspective, and they educate you if they've been down the path before. So without a doubt, I would not be where I am. I wouldn't be talking to you had I not invested in myself and being coached.
Yeah, great. And have you had mentors along the way?
Absolutely. Yeah, many.
Do you have a board of directors or advisors?
I do have advisors. I don't have a board of directors in this business model with the coaching, as I'm still growing it. But the last business, we did have board of directors. Yeah.
Yep. Now, Steve, you're one of the few we've had on that's exited a business. You got any advice for the audience that may be considering or should be considering? I know you said before you got to start with the end in mind and think of that exit for all the time. Any other advice for the audience on exiting?
Yeah, when I went through the exit, it was a very interesting education process, I'll tell you. And they go through your business with a fine-tooth comb. They're kind of looking for a reason to say no, is what they're doing essentially. Now, they want to buy you, but they want to make sure that you are who you say are, and the numbers reflect that. Contracts, agreements, bank account records, everything has to be tracked and done correctly. And, they brought up some things to us that we had no idea that was 3 years old. We're like, oh shit, we didn't know. And so if you're going to go through an exit, or even if you just want to run your business correctly, be fanatical about your numbers and tracking. Don't cut corners. Don't not sign agreements with people because you've been working with them. Have all of your contracts and agreements up to date, and have all of your agreements done correctly. Invest the money and the time in having it done correctly, because when somebody comes and offers you a really big fucking check like they did for us, they're not going to sit around and say, okay, go ahead and get your guys a house in order and then we'll see.
No,
because how you do the little things is how you do everything.
Yes.
And so luckily we were fanatical about our numbers, and they were very impressed. But that was a big lesson to me, is make sure everything is documented and you're very clear and concise. Do not blur, don't bend, don't cut corners, because again, you're really hurting yourself. I mean, because you're not running a true business correctly. But that was case in point and very proof evident when they came back to us and said, man, you guys are pretty good. You're one of the best we've ever had.
Right, Steve, we're on to our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
Surrounding yourself with the right kind of people to get to the next level. Whoever you are today, whatever you've done, is not going to get you to the next level.
Yeah.
Your friends, your peers, they're not going to get you to the next level. So being okay with getting out of your comfort zone and being around a different set of people, I think is one of the hardest things in my opinion.
There's about 5 friends that listen to my podcast. So I'm going to sack them.
It's time to go. Hey, if you look at your 5, you're number 6. So
that's it. Favorite business book, which has helped you the most?
The E-Myth.
Oh, absolutely love that. Gerber, late 80s. It's the Bible.
Yep.
My favorite book. Anyone thinking of starting, but especially growing a business, you've got to read that fucking book.
Yeah, it's a great book.
Any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for your own professional development?
Well, I am fanatical about audiobooks and podcast shows. And it really runs the gamut to my mood, to be completely honest. I like, out here in the States, I like, there's a guy named Andy Frisella, Ed Milet. I look at people that are where I want to be at that point in my life. And so those people change as well. People that I listened to before, I've kind of become equal to them. So I don't listen to them anymore. I go to the next level. So, excuse me, but I'm fanatical about listening to audiobooks and podcasts all the time at the gym, in my car, everywhere.
One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
Asana.
Yep.
It's a project management tool to be able to collaborate and basically get everything out of your head and into some sort of format, project model.
Final, my favorite question. What would you tell yourself on day one of starting out?
I would tell myself not to run away from the life I didn't want, but to run towards the life I want. I think a lot of times when we start a business, we're running away from something, but we don't know what we're running to. So we're basically everything that we're, as you know, with your filter, with your RAS, if we're running away saying, I don't want this, I don't want that, guess what we run right into?
Yep.
Exactly what we don't want. And so I would say focus before you even start that business, really identify what you want and why you're doing it. And then go towards that, go to the light, that kind of thing.
Fantastic. Thanks very much for your time today, Steve. I've really enjoyed our chat. I think we could talk for another 3 hours, but better leave it there for the audience. And congratulations on the growth of the business over 7 years, and obviously the exit as well. You and your business partner and the wider team, you started just the two of you and got up to around 30, and really, really encouraged with what you're doing right now and helping a lot of other property management businesses and owners get it right. Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And for our audience, we would greatly appreciate a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. More reviews means we bubble up higher in iTunes, etc. So more business owners looking for podcast help with their growth will find us.